when to start because I don't have slides right away.
Okay, so we're people are still joining in right now. So if you want to give it maybe like another couple minutes, and then we can start them.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. We're just waiting to get started here. There's still people joining, so we'll plan to start at about 12:05 p.m.
Hello, welcome everybody to our monthly wellness workshop from the Center for Clinical Wellness. I am Dr. Sheila Dowd. I'm a psychologist at Rush. Thank you for taking your time out of your very busy day to kind of check in with us. We really wanted to focus on one of the 5 pillars of well-being, that being social connection. Many of our relationships, both personal and professional, have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. It's brought forward some new challenges and concerns. And so we are hoping today to talk a little bit about some ways to manage expressing ourselves interpersonally. We've been working long hours. We've got nurses that are staying extra shifts and canceling vacations. Some of you aren't taking any vacations at all because there's really nowhere to go. We don't really have a place to relax, unfortunately, except our homes. It's starting to change a little bit, which is good, but what we've probably noticed is our patients are more stressed, our families are more stressed, your children might be frustrated with not having any social connections. A lot of us are working from home, spending a lot of time with our family. And there are many wonderful things about spending time with our family. This is a unique opportunity. A lot of children are returning from college, and even those who have just gotten jobs are returning and working from home, which is lovely, and it's been very nice. But it can also be stressful. There can also be things that you have to negotiate that you haven't had to negotiate before. So as we start this new year, let's take the first step in kind of understanding if there are areas you need to improve with being interpersonally effective. We want to feel good about asking for what we need, for saying no, for feeling effective when there are conflicts in the house or even at work amongst your colleagues. We want to do what works. We don't want to feel like we're hurt and letting problems build up, let frustrations build up. We want to head off any problems, hopefully when we start to see them so they don't get bigger. Resolve those conflicts, before they start to get overwhelming. So I want to work on kind of clarifying goals in this interpersonal effectiveness, right? I'm going to use these great worksheets from a psychologist, Dr. Linehan, who's out on the West Coast. And she's worked really hard to kind of break down these natural skills into really recognizable steps. And I think a lot of you probably do these skills naturally, intuitively, which is wonderful. But it's really nice to kind of take a moment and really think about the strategies that we're using that are effective. Let's give them a name. Let's identify them so that we can kind of recall and use them again when you're in an emotional situation or a frustrating situation. All the worksheets that I'm using are online. You can easily Google them. They're, basically interpersonal effectiveness, and then all of the other ones will be labeled very clearly. So all you have to do is do a quick search and you'll find them available. Let's see. We have an open chat as well. So if you have questions or thoughts, certainly feel free. I will try and balance kind of the presentation and looking at the chat room. So something to get used to. So give me a second to catch up. So the first thing we're going to start with, let me share my screen. And hopefully it's pretty clear. I lose the chat, so let me see if I can find that again. Okay, so when we're facing a potential conflict or a need to express something, a need to assert yourself, a need to maybe say no, we want to kind of look at these three goals, three options, three perspectives that you might want to take as you think about this, right? So the first thing is always to know, what's the prompting event for this problem? So once you kind of pick a specific problem, like, what happened? What do I want to be different? What is the issue? What's the problem? Then you're going to decide, all right, what do I want to do in this situation with my loved one or with my colleague? The first one is an objective goal. And that's very specifically, this is what you want to get a certain objective. What specific result or change do you want from the situation? What do you want the other person to do, by the end of the interaction, right? Do you want to stand up for your rights? Do you want someone to do something in a certain way? Do you want to refuse a request? That's that objective goal. If you want the other person to stop doing something, or you want the other person to commit to some kind of change, or you want the person to agree, or maybe just to understand how you're feeling, your objective goal. Let me pull this back. Let's see if that's more visible.
Looks good, Sheila.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm going to move the chat over. Eve, let me know if that cleared everything up.
It looks good.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right, so My wants and desires in this situation, we just quickly review the objectives. What results do you want? Do you want the other person to stop doing something, to commit to something, to maybe change something? But you want to be as specific as possible. It's really important that you have to figure out before you go into this interpersonal interaction what exactly you want from the situation. And if it's objective, then you're really going to focus on what specifically you want. And it's a lot harder than it sounds. You're going to need to take some time to figure out exactly what you want, especially if there's a lot of emotion, if you're feeling a lot, if you're very frustrated, if there's something going on that's just causing you to have a hard time thinking. Break it down to what you want the other person to stop doing or to commit to or to change or to agree with, right? Now, even if this is your goal, we can never control what the other person is going to do. Our goal is to feel effective in how you asked for the thing. You might not walk away with what you want, but you will be able to walk away saying, I was effective, I did what I wanted to do, I had this objective goal, and I got it done, right? The second choice is the relationship effectiveness goal, right? So we've got objective goal or we've got relationship effectiveness, right? Keeping or improving the relationship while at the same time trying to achieve your goal in the interaction, right? Ask yourself, how do I want the other person to feel about me after the interaction is over, whether or not you get the results that you want? This is really saying, I got to protect this relationship. I got to make sure that everything is okay. I want to balance my goals with the good of the relationship, right? This is a long-term relationship. I want them to like me, respect me after this interaction. It's really important in some ways. This is something maybe your mother or grandmother would say, pick your battles, right? You really want to focus on the relationship. It's perfectly legitimate to prioritize that, to say, no, what's most important is how our relationship is maintained, right? So at its best, you'll get what you want, and the person will respect you and like you even more than before. Examples are, acting in a way that makes the other person actually want to give you that thing that you're asking for. Actually have this person feel really good about saying yes to your request. The relationship is really important. So you'll be balancing your immediate goals, right, with the good of the long-term relationship if you're really focused on those kind of goals, right? If you always make the relationship the main objective, if you only focus on making sure the relationship is good, you may be sacrificing some of your personal objectives just for the sake of the relationship. It's a myth that if you sacrifice your own needs and the wants to other people in the relationship, it will go more smoothly. You'll get more approval and you won't have any problems. That's really a myth, because over the length of the relationship, if you continually prioritize the relationship and not yourself, you'll be lessening what you're getting, and you'll be lessening your personal needs. What happens over time is you get more and more frustrated and more unhappy in the relationship. And you may potentially begin to feel like the relationship is not equal, and your needs aren't getting met. And you might eventually kind of blow up, have a fight, maybe end it quickly. It depends. But it really can wear on you if you always make the relationship your main objective. All right. So right now I've taken kind of the middle portion of the worksheet, and so we're basically focused on objectives, relationship, and then we're about to go into self-respect, and then we'll kind of expand it a little bit. So I hope everybody can see that. All right, the third choice then now is the self-respect, right? This is where we want to think about, you want to keep or maintain or improve respect for yourself and respect for your own values and your own beliefs while trying to get your objectives, right? You want to be able to do both. Ask yourself, how do you want to feel about yourself after the interaction is over, right? Whether or not you get the results you want, The goal is for you to ask yourself, how do I want to feel about myself? Who do I want to be? We cannot control the other person. We can only control ourselves. So in that self-respect, we really want to focus on, I want to feel good about how I handled that interaction. I don't want to feel bad. So you're always going to be kind of picking between these three choices: objective, relationship, or self-respect, right? And sometimes it might switch, right? Sometimes it might start off as objective, and then you realize you're going to have to move into self-respect. The goal is for you to feel comfortable using all three of these, right? And not always just relying on one, because there's disadvantages to always relying on one or the other, right? Sometimes it's a disadvantage to always rely on, self-respect potentially, because then maybe you're not being collaborative enough, or you might be sacrificing the relationship in some way. You can't always win. You don't want to be in a position where you feel like you're always winning. You don't always want to be on top. You don't always want to feel like you got to prove a point or defend your position in that self-respect role, right? You want to be able to shift between all of these three and feel comfortable and confident. So that's the first step is, okay, let's define what my objective is. And we're going to give some examples, and then I'm going to give you some additional worksheets about ways that you can handle the objective goal, the relationship goal, and the self-respect goal. So it's a lot of information coming at once. I hope it's clear. There's a lot of information on the internet that really describes these. There's videos. You'll see Dr. Linehan herself kind of run through these. So it's a nice opportunity for you to learn if you really want to negotiate conflicts and learn these issues. Okay. So let's go. All right. So let's give an example. In situation one, right, with the pandemic, with some people losing jobs, with our family stressors, there's a lot of issues with paying rent. So you have a landlord that decides he's going to keep his your damage deposit when you're leaving the apartment, and you completely disagree and feel like it's very unfair, and you had left the apartment in good shape, and you should have gotten that returned to you, right? So the objective goal would be get the damage deposit back. All you're going to focus on is getting that damage deposit back. If you're thinking about the relationship, right, you might want to think, well, I need to keep his goodwill because I need another reference for me to find another apartment, or they're connected in some way. So I got to make sure that the relationship is maintained and that they respect me, and it's not difficult if I should refer my next landlords to him, right? So you want to keep that relationship. And then the self-respect, of course, is not to lose self-respect by getting too emotional. Things are really tense. People are short-tempered. It's really frustrating. You don't want to fight dirty to get that money back. You don't want to get too emotional. You don't want to get threatening because that's just not who you are. That's not the person that you want to be. So you want to position yourself to be able to feel self-respect when you walk away from that situation, having done what you think is best. Right? Situation two. A lot of this has come up, right? Your partner, your roommate, your husband, your wife, they talk really loud when they're on WebEx. For some reason, their volume just picks up, and you guys are all in this small space, and it's really difficult to kind of negotiate. You don't know what to do, right? Objectively, you would want them to talk quietly, right? If they could just lower their voice a little or figure out some way to bring the tone down, be more aware of themselves, right? The relationship is you really want to recognize they aren't doing it on purpose. They really don't recognize that they're doing this. It's probably just natural. And you might want to think about, rearranging the work situation or doing something that recognizes they might not be able to do this, right? And the self-respect is the frustration that could build where you feel like you just kind of want to yell at them to be quiet. You don't want to do, right? If you're going to prioritize that, you have to take a breath, be able to take a step back and say, all right, what am I going to do? What's my priority here? How am I going to manage this without expressing all of the frustration that I'm feeling because of the whole pandemic, or just because it's so hard to negotiate with the kids and everybody in the house, right? So you're going to prioritize one of those. They're all going to come into play in many ways, but you really want to focus on not losing it and not getting frustrated and not being that person that's really annoyed easily. So that's some quick and easy examples. Obviously, we have conflicts that are much more complicated than this and pretty difficult to cover in a short time. But at least you get some idea of what I mean by kind of picking those three topics. So now let's say you have decided to do objective effectiveness. Dr. Linehan came up with another great, really quick and easy worksheet, and she calls it Dear Man. And the Dear Man is how you're going to negotiate this objective effectiveness. This takes a lot of practice. It's not always easy. Some of you do it instinctively and it comes quite naturally and wonderful. Now you know that it actually can be labeled as a very effective objective goal, right? The D in Dear Man says describe. First, you want to start telling this person, so this is what you're going to use to interact with them in order to get your objective. You're going to describe the situation objectively. You're going to stick to the facts. Avoid any kind of opinion or interpretation. The goal is to get everyone on the same page. So you're just going to describe the situation like, you know, honey, we are all sharing space here, and I noticed that when, you know, we all are on our WebEx or Zoom meetings, the volume kind of picks up and gets loud, right? Then E is the expression, right? Let the other person know how this situation makes you feel by clearly expressing your feelings. They're not going to be able to read your mind. They're not going to recognize your emotions sometimes. They're not going to recognize your opinions. So you want to say, I feel this because of this, right? I feel frustrated because you, I think the apartment is in great shape and I should get, you know, I feel like the apartment is in great shape, right? That's just the express. I accidentally slipped into the assert, because the assert is what comes next, right? Don't beat around the bush. Say what you need to say. Don't say, you know, oh, well, maybe, I'm not sure. You're going to assert your solution, right? I want you to refund my security deposit. The apartment is in great shape, right? So you're going to assert what you want. I need to rearrange our system because you're too loud when maybe too loud is too accusatory. It gets really loud when we're on WebEx, right? So assert, give them what you want for your objective effectiveness, right? And then reinforce. You know, people respond well when they get positive reinforcement. So you're going to want to reinforce why it's outcome. It could be thank you. It could be this would really help me. It could be, you know, to the landlord financially, I really have to get a cheaper apartment because I've lost my job because of the pandemic, or we didn't get raises, or they cut my pay. Could you, it would really be helpful to me in this difficult time if you could refund my deposit, right? So reward the person, give them a positive outcome that would come from this assertion. Now comes, so that's the dear, right? That's the active part. The mindful is going to be depending on how the person responds, right? Again, we can't control the other person. So you're going to want to be mindful. Don't forget the objective. It's easy to get sidetracked and get into harmful arguments, to go on tangents, to go in different directions, for them to bring up other problems, other issues. So you really want to be mindful that your goal is to get the money reimbursed, right? You really want to pull yourself back, let go of any potential jabs that might come at you or frustrations from the other person. You want to be respectful to them, but you don't want to engage in a discussion about them because it's going to pull you away from your objective, right? So appear confident, right? Consider your posture, your tone, eye contact, body language. You want to be firm. You want to be clear. You want to be direct. You don't want to hedge. You don't want to kind of back off. You don't want to say, well, maybe, I'm not sure. You really want to be confident with your assertion and with your objective, right? And then negotiate. Always going to be that last one to negotiate is no one can have everything they want out of an interaction. You're not always going to get exactly what you want. Sometimes, hopefully it will, but in case it doesn't, be ready to negotiate. Make some compromises. Figure out some ways to find a middle ground so that everybody feels kind of happy with it. So that's Dear Man. And again, this is for objective effectiveness. And you will find this on the internet. It's very easy. Even searching for Dear Man, you'll find it. All right. Now we're going to go into the next quick and easy, not easy, I should say, quick and easy to remember, the goal of give, right? And this is when you're going to prioritize relation effectiveness. This is when you're going to say, what we really want to do is feel good about the relationship and have this person respect you as you step away, as you walk away. So relationships aren't always about getting what we need. They're also about the other person. So you want to help achieve a relationship effectiveness as you're trying to reach your goals. You want to foster a really positive interaction between you and this person. So give, G, is gentle, right? Don't attack. It's hard sometimes. We get frustrated. You instinctively want to say, you are so loud, right? You want to express judgment. How can you possibly work when you're so loud, right? You might yell at the landlord, you're just trying to make money off of people, and you don't understand how difficult it is out here, right? You don't want to attack. You really want to be clear and gentle. And again, this is because you're prioritizing the relationship, right? Accept the occasional no for your requests. It's possible that they don't want to do this, and then it's going to be your job to accept the results of this because you've prioritized the relationship. You have to be ready to give. You have to be ready to let go sometimes. And when you really do let go, you have to let go. You don't want it to build up. You don't want to store it away, and in the next argument or the next conflict, you bring up this issue again when it appeared at the time that you had accepted the resolution. So truly accept that you're going to let this go, that you're going to be okay with this. Right? That's the gentle. And that takes time. As you can imagine, these are much easier to do when you don't have a lot of negative emotions, when you're not overwhelmed and when you're not frustrated and when you're not angry. Much easier to do these things. So as always, take that breath, take the break, give yourself some time to run through what you might want to do. Some people actually rehearse what they're going to say for the Dear Man or the give, right? They take a step back, kind of plot out what they're going to say. Sometimes you could work with a therapist or a counselor and help role play and practice some of these things. You might have a friend who's really good at this. Reach out to them and do some role playing. They can be, the other person and may be able to guess what that other person might respond to and help you practice how to be gentle, right? Especially in an emotional situation. Right? And it's always easier for that second person to do it because there's no emotion, right? So you might be great helping one of your friends when you're not feeling the emotion that they are. And they might be really great helping you because they're not feeling the emotion that you're feeling. Okay. Interested. Show interest by listening to the other person without interrupting. That's hard to do. Sometimes we want to jump in. I think that's my weakest. I'm an interrupter. I really have to practice to just sit back and let the man express what they're expressing, even if it's in repetition, just to give them the floor a little bit and make them feel heard, right? Because you're trying to, again, foster the relationship, right? Validate. Validate is so important. It feels so good when we're validated. And remember, when you're validated, it feels great as well. So focus on that validation. Be outwardly validating to the other person's thoughts and feelings. So validation just means, I know you're working hard and I know that WebEx is really important to you and maybe you're, trying to emphasize a point. I know you're a really good worker and I know sometimes the technology fails us, and so maybe you have to talk loud. Like, validate what you think they might be feeling and ask them if it's true, or validate what they've already told you, right? Just reflect back what they've told you, that they're frustrated, that they're tired, that they're feeling picked on, that they're whatever it might be. They feel like they do everything wrong. Whatever it is that they've expressed to you, if you spent some time to be gentle and interested and let them speak it, then you want to reflect it back. Then you just want to validate and say, I understand. And that doesn't mean that you're agreeing to it. It just means that you understand that that's how they feel, right? You really just want to let them know that they're being heard, just like we want to be heard. And there's no guarantee that the person you're doing this with is going to follow give. They might not be in the space to be able to be gentle and interested in what you're saying and validate what you're saying. We run across that a lot. People are very much on edge. So again, the goal isn't always to control the other person. It's to be the person that you want to be in this interaction. So if you decide you want to prioritize the relationship, and if they blow it up, or they get upset, or they leave, or something happens, then you'll know that you have done everything you can to prioritize the relationship. You followed give, you picked what the battle is, you decided what you needed to do, and you should be proud of that, right? Because we cannot control the other person as much as we'd like to. So again, validate, acknowledge their feelings, recognize when your requests are demanding, right? And respect their opinions. So it is really hard to change your voice. It's very hard to drop your tone. Recognize the fact, look, I know it's really hard to be aware of how loud you are and to lower your voice. I recognize to the landlord, I understand you have a mortgage to pay as well, and you need this money in order to help pay your bills. Acknowledge what the situation is and what their perspective might be. Okay? And then easy. Take a break, have an easy attitude, relax the tension. Don't want to lean into it and give them pressure. You want to be able to sit back, kind of try and smile, act lighthearted, relax. And I want you to notice the word act. You might not feel lighthearted, but I want you to at least act being lighthearted, right? Just kind of pretend that this is easy and you're okay and it's relaxed. It will serve you, because the goal is to take the stress kind of out of this interaction and be very gentle and really focus on the relationship. So even though you're still frustrated, you've decided to prioritize the relationship, you got to accept that you've got to relax and just kind of sit back and listen and be present with the other person. Take some breaths. It's very easy to do some little quick relaxation when you're with someone, because they don't even know what you're doing, right? If your hands are clenched, you're going to relax your hands in your lap, drop your shoulders down. If you're tension in your jaw and you're holding your jaw tight, relax the jaw, relax your eyes, relax your shoulders. Some people clench their toes and their feet. Just go focus on kind of relaxing their feet, relaxing your legs, just kind of saying, all right, I'm okay. This is what I want to do. I want to prioritize the relationship. This is most important, that when this ends, that we're still okay and we respect each other and we can have a relationship together. So physically, take it easy. Fake that easy attitude, fake that lightheartedness, smile. Okay. So that's for relationship. So we got Dear Man for objective, Give for relationship effectiveness. And then the last one is self-respect effectiveness. And in this case, we're using FAST, F-A-S-T. Again, sometimes in relationships, you might find yourself betraying your own values and your own beliefs in order to get that approval or to get what you want. In the acronym FAST, right, we want you to achieve that self-respect effectiveness. We want the relationship in the long term to be able to balance all of these three goals. In order to be effective, you're going to be rotating depending on the situation between these three. You don't want to rely on one of these for all interactions. So FAST, F, be fair, not to only to others, but to yourself. Really recognize that, of course, you're upset, and of course, they're upset, and really try and get a perspective that gets you kind of outside that emotion, right? That gets you to kind of take a step back and say, look, this is what everybody's doing right here in this room. This is why we're having this interaction. This is what's happening here. Everybody's coming from a different spot, right? Everybody wants a different thing. So really just be fair and think about the situation from a global perspective and not from that hot spot, the emotion. Right? Apologies. We always have people in our life that apologize a lot. Don't apologize unless it's warranted. Don't apologize for making a request, for having an opinion, or for disagreeing. Instinctively, there are people who very much just say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry all the time. And we're not even sure if they mean it because they say it so often. It's just something that they immediately go to, and we want to make sure that it feels genuine. So you only want to apologize if it's very specifically warranted, or if you genuinely feel it. If you feel like there's something that you want to apologize for, that's great. Go ahead and do it. But don't do it after every kind of request. You know, I'm sorry I need this. I'm sorry I need that. I'm sorry I made you think about this. And, you know, you want them to think about this. You don't have to apologize. This is important to you. You want to bring up this problem because it's important to you. So you don't have to apologize for that. That's part of the give and take of relationships. That's how you maintain a long-term relationship, is creating an environment where you'll be able to express yourself, feel good about it, right? So don't make those apologies. Stick to your values. Right? Don't compromise. Your values are important to you, so don't compromise the values. You might compromise on the goal, but don't compromise your values. You don't need to just be liked. It is a myth that if you make everything easy for everybody, it's a good relationship. Because in the long term, you'll be sacrificing and you'll feel the unevenness in the relationship. Stand up for what you believe in. Right? Be clear, be firm. This is what you believe in. Don't be angry, right? We don't want to be yelling. We don't want to be causing a fight. We want to be very firm in your value and your truth and your spiritual belief and your religious beliefs. Whatever that value is, we want you to be able to maintain. And again, some of you are really good at this. So we've just labeled what you're really good at. And you want to use these acronyms in case you get in a point where you're getting over emotional, or where you're having a hard time, or you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, right? Pull back to these acronyms. Truthful, avoid dishonesty, right? Don't exaggerate, act helpless. Don't try to use it as some form of manipulation or outright lying. You just want to be very direct and very truthful about your feelings and your values, and you want to be who you want to be at the end of this. And you don't want to feel like you had to kind of manipulate in some way. But again, that doesn't mean you don't do some white lies, right? White lies are a little bit different than being exaggerating or being manipulative or outright lying. White lies sometimes protect us in some way and protect the other person from being hurt. And when you're going to lie, in terms of a white lie, you want to make a conscious choice of it. You want to say, I'm going to not mention this, or I'm going to skip over this part because that's my value. It will not help. It will hurt them. It may cause more problems. So you're still being true to your value, even if true to your own values and beliefs, even if you might be a little deceptive or might skip something or might not say something. Right? But again, conscious decision. And you should feel comfortable that if you get challenged on that decision for the white lie or something else happens, you have the strength to say, you know, I made that choice. I decided not to tell you that because I thought it wouldn't improve the situation. It would needlessly hurt you. It was not an important, whatever it might be, whatever reason you decided you want to be able to express that to them, a conscious decision. And we know that this isn't always going to go smoothly, right? There is going to be times where these conflicts get very heated. And there's going to be times where potentially you cannot get the cooperation of someone else, even though you were using fast, even though you were using give, even though you did a beautiful job presenting Dear Man. You cannot control the other person. And that's what's frustrating, right? Because of course we all want to get what we want. But these quick acronyms, I'm hoping, will give you something to kind of organize around when you're starting to feel like you're not able to assert yourself, when you're starting to feel like you're being too aggressive, right? Because there are times when you might do fast, right? But in that stick to your values, you got too aggressive. Your voice got loud. You started to get angry. Maybe you challenged them and said, how could you possibly think that? What kind of person does that? You're getting into that judgment of them, right? That can easily happen for yourself. So we want to pull back to stick to my values, right? I'm going to pull back to, I'm not going to accuse them. I'm going to stick to, these are my values. This is the reason why I'm doing it. And a goal, hopefully, if you can anchor around these acronyms, it will be easier to be that person that you want to be in these situations, right? These are not easy to negotiate. The ones that are easy to negotiate, you've done, and they're over, and it worked, and everything's great, right? When you're at the point of using these sometimes, it's because there's something really heated in this topic, right? This is not an easy objective. And certainly we know working with our colleagues here at Rush and being able to express some of these things is not easy because there's impact, right? If it doesn't go well, we know it's going to potentially affect the relationship, right? We know that someone might still get upset with us, even though we were very gentle and we used really nice give strategies. We don't know how it's going to be received. So again, our goal is to really kind of be able to walk away from that and say, I did the best I could. I followed give, I followed Dear Man, I followed fast. I decided that my main objective was for my self-respect, and there's nothing more that I can do. I've done everything I can, and now begins acceptance, right? Because now you have to accept the fact that it didn't work. If it didn't, I didn't get my money back, right? We weren't able to figure out how to best run our WebExes and run our meetings together. It's still going to be a problem. And acceptance is where we move to just kind of the next part of this interpersonal effectiveness, which we won't go into because obviously it's going to take more time than we have. But I think all of us know what it's like to accept, know what it's like to be able to say, I did the best I could, but there's nothing more that I can do. And we want you to walk away feeling that confidence. So I zipped through a lot of things really quickly. Usually, we have more of a chance to practice and to role play some of these. It's sometimes really difficult to imagine what these look like without some role plays. So if you have any questions or any thoughts that popped in, please go ahead and use the chat. If we were to run through a Dear Man, for example, the landlord, and I decide my most important thing is to get that money, right? So I'm going to go to Dear Man and I'm going to describe the situation objectively and stick to the facts. And I'm going to say to the landlord, I've been a tenant for 2 years. The apartment I feel was in good shape. I pulled a little bit of the express, but and I would like to get my down payment back, the security deposit back. I know that these are tough times. I'm clearly experiencing difficulty, and it would be really nice if I could use this money in order to recoup what I lost during the pandemic. So I feel really frustrated that I can't get my deposit back. So I think it would be fair because the apartment is in good shape and we can walk through it together. It's in good shape. I want to be clear that I would like that money back. Right? I think it's fair for you to redo it. I understand that you have a lot of expenses, but I think that you're going to feel better if you give me the payment back, because I've been a very good tenant and the apartment is in great shape, and I think that you'll feel better as well. And I can recommend, friends to rent from you. You have a number of properties. I think it would be really good if for your reputation, if we can settle this together. Any kind of attempts that he had to say, that I have to pay my mortgage, I have a lot to do. I'm going to say, I understand you definitely has bills just like I have bills, but I really think it's only fair that you give me back my deposit because the apartment is in really good condition. And he's going to say, but you didn't pay, you were late on rent 4 or 5 times. And I'm going to say, it's true, I did struggle for 4 or 5 times, but I kept the apartment in really good shape. I took care of it. I respected your property. I think it's fair that you refund the money. And so you can see I'm just kind of repeating my assert over and over, doing a little reflection, saying I recognize I was late a few times, but I just keep saying I really think it would be fair. I'm not letting him distract me with going into all the things that went wrong between us over the past 2 years, and the times he didn't fix something that needed to be fixed, or the times that he didn't take care and shovel when he should have shoveled. I'm not going to bring any of those up. I'm just going to focus on the apartment is clean, and I think it's fair that you give me back the money. I'm trying to be confident in my posture, in my eye contact, in my body language. Now I'm also ready to negotiate. So if he says, how about if we split it? I'll give you half back and I'll keep half of it. I'm going to probably take that as a good thing and say, that sounds fair. I will take half of it and walk away, right? And so now I've gotten at least half of it. I compromised, right? I compromised. If I'm going to give, probably kind of the same things, and maybe focus a little bit on the understanding of his feelings and acknowledge that he needs the money too, but that I really need the money. And I would love to have his reference in the future. I think we've worked well together. Is there a way that we can split this, right? Or you take half and I take half, right? Fast, again, being fair to myself. And I might say, this is really important to me because I'm trying to support my family and I need this money. And I think it is only fair that you give me the money. We can walk through the apartment and you'll see it's in great shape. I have done everything to be a good tenant, right? But I think, that we should split this. I think you can take half and I can take half if that's what you want. Or you can say, it's not fair. I think all of it should come to me. So these are the nuances of saying, I'm going to focus on the fact that I need to take care of my family and you have to respect that. And I am going to be kind to you and I'm going to understand your situation, recognize you have a mortgage, but that this is not fair, that the apartment is in good shape and it's not fair to be treating me this way. Right, and be a little bit more challenging towards my belief that I need to support my family and it's unfair. So those are some quick examples of these different kind of techniques and way to use them.
Sheila, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So when dealing with conflict in a professional setting, I was thinking about the different tools that you shared here, which are so helpful. I wonder, how would you try to practice or role play for someone you don't know very well? So I'm thinking of the example of, maybe I'm a relatively new employee or I'm joining a new team and I don't know how my supervisor will respond, or I don't know how my colleague will respond. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I think that's probably a lot of us are in that situation where we don't necessarily know. So your goal in that moment is to say, it sounds like, Eve, what you're almost saying is the relationship is the most important right now because I don't know them well enough. So I want to preserve that relationship so that I can continue in this job and continue to collaborate with this person. So I'm going to focus on the give, right? I'm going to really try and make sure that I'm listening to them, that I'm hearing what they're saying. I'm spending a lot of time reflecting and validating, being very gentle, very easygoing, sitting back in the chair, not going to do any kind of challenging. I'm not going to do any kind of threatening or providing evidence that this isn't fair. I'm going to be doing more of the easy attitude, smiling, kind of lighthearted, so that I can get more information about this person, so that I can make a decision if my objective is going to be met, right? Because we don't know enough.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So when so say for example, I'm struggling with a colleague. I address the first conversation maybe from a relationship effectiveness, but we're still having a lot of conflict. Would I then pivot to self-respect or objective? Do you change how you address someone depending on how it goes?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, Eve. You're right. All of these three are at your fingertips, right? And you might be shifting between them, either in that interaction, if it turns out there's another direction that you need to go, or if you're going to come back at another point after you've tried, the relationship effectiveness, but it's still not resolved. There's still not a problem. You have some more information about the person, then you're going to use that to pick again. Okay, this is not feeling right. I don't feel good about this. There's more that needs to be said. So I'm going to circle back and I'm going to do Dear Man because I want this objective, right? Or I'm going to circle back because I really want to tell them something valuable about the unfairness of this, or that this isn't right, the value part of it. And you also might even say, you know what? I'm not going to get anywhere on this. This is clearly a larger issue, something that I'm not going to effectively change. And so you might then, because you tried give, you might say, I did the best, I did give, I tried to maintain the relationship. So at this point, I've got to move into acceptance. I did the best I could to try and get what I wanted, but it doesn't look like I can move this, forward. There's nowhere for me to go, so I need to accept this. And that could mean just coming to a place where you recognize the limitations of the system, more empathy towards this other person, maybe a decision this isn't the right place for you, or this isn't a good environment. At that point, you can make another decision about what you want to do.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that, just thinking of conflicts I've had before, that acceptance stage can often be really challenging to get to and to, really accept that it's done. There's really nothing more you can do. So it's helpful to hear that validation too.
Yeah. And hopefully this will also be able for you to walk away and say, I did what I wanted to do. I did Dear Man, I did give, I did fast. Because we want you to feel effective, right? Because this is about how you feel walking away, because you're not always going to get what you want. So if you did this give, or you did fast and you didn't get what you wanted, but you were true to yourself, then that's what you're going to hang your acceptance on, right? That's the base for how you're going to move forward to accept is, I did the best that I could, right? And that's what I want people to be empowered to do. It's really important to feel that confidence. And again, these are very difficult situations. This is not easy for people to negotiate. That's why Dr. Linehan came up with these strategies, is because it's hard to get out of that emotional spot. It's sometimes really instinctive to get in there and fight. So thank you all again for taking time today to kind of think about interpersonal effectiveness. And I hope this review in some way gave you some ideas, some tips, some reference, or maybe even go back online and get the worksheet yourself, because we really want you to feel confident as you manage your social connection during this really stressful pandemic.
I think too, I really want to put forward to everyone who is able to join us today, we'd love to hear your feedback as we continue this wellness workshop series. So please email us at rushwellness@rush.edu if you have topics, feedback, advice, anything you'd like to share with us. We have open ears and are so excited to engage with you. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Dr. Dowd, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. You all hang in there and stay safe.